All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smithy with another GSD Mode podcast interview. Every single week, I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and top badasses out there dominating their space. And today, guys, another amazing rock star, epic guest on. This is a gentleman this is his fourth appearance on the podcast. I was just telling him it's been 7 years since we've jammed on a podcast here, which feels, time just flies, man. Goes by crazy. But our guest today, just to give you guys just a quick backstory here, been in the industry for over almost 20 years now, was somebody that was a agent, just like we all start off, solo agent, built the team, was doing over 100 units a year just himself, hitting FISBOs, out there crushing that. Now I'm going to link the other 3 podcasts that we did to this one, so you guys can go walk beginning phases journeys, how I crushed it with FISBOs. But since then, so I've been in the industry for over 20 years, quickly became one of Utah's top real estate agents brands, selling over 1,000 homes. Now today's helping agents go from business operator to business owner and create true financial freedom, which we'll do a deep dive into that. Has trained thousands of agents from becoming 6 and 7 figure earners with his top clients today in that 300,000 plus per month income range. With Real Brokerage, has over 2,300 agents in his downline and network, amongst a lot of other things. So stoked and honored to have my good friend Colton Lindsay back on the podcast. Welcome back, brother.
What's up, man? I'm just pumped to be here and just jam with you. Like, the podcast is the bonus, but just talking to you and hanging out is like, it's been so long. I can't believe it's been 7 years. First of all, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, the last time we actually, I think, had a conversation and spoke was at your event in Dallas.
Yeah.
That was what, 3 or maybe 4 or 5 years. I mean, I can't remember when that was.
That was 2019. I remember we went riding scooters at night or something. Remember we cruised on this.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude. And that's when I'd given up my cell phone. I went from a smartphone to a flip phone, so I couldn't even get the scooter. So like one of you guys had to rent it for me.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's funny, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this, dude. So, okay. So you said something right before we hit the record button of the collapse of the old world of real estate, and now the entering of the new world of real estate, and realtors, team leaders, and broker owners just getting crushed right now. And I'm seeing the same thing, man. You and I are both having conversations with agents, team leaders, broker owners on a daily basis. And man, it's like when I'm having conversation, not all, but with the majority, it's like their business is down 40, 50, 60, sometimes even 70%. And not just at the agent level, at all levels, man.
Yep.
So what do you mean by the collapse of the old world of real estate and now entering into the new world?
Well, everything was done traditionally. Like, well, you think of what the origination of an MLS was. It was like dudes in the 1800s getting together and saying, hey, let's co-broker our properties and let's offer a buyer's agent commission to help sell each other's stuff. And it's just advanced since then in the world. But what we've seen dramatically in the last 20 years is the advancement of technology. Okay. So I think the industry, my hallucination is it's hit the peak. And when there's a peak, it's always followed by a crisis. And you got multiple crises that are hitting, and not just real estate, like the whole, you got many things, right? So you've got the technology crises, you've got the political climate crises, you got the economic crises, you got the cultural, like just the culture in general has radically changed since 2020. So all of these things change. And what it does is it forces brands in an industry to do one of two things. Ideally, they're going to anticipate and say, hey, where is this going? Let's innovate into that wave. Not everyone's going to innovate in the right direction. We've seen that with brands the last several years. But the other thing that is happening so much is they age. It becomes an aging process. And when there's an aging process, they move. I mean, think of what humans do. Most age and then go to assisted living. And then from assisted living, they die, they go out. And so when you mix that with where we are in technology is doing one thing. I don't know if it's going to shrink commissions. I hear that shit all the time, but it's definitely going to make people either more effective and efficient, or it's going to make them obsolete. And if you can't figure out how to use artificial intelligence, use technology to be, and you're ahead of the game. How you've been doing social media for freaking ever and a day, right?
Yep.
And so that's how I see it. Is like, okay, well, what is the future? Where's this industry going to be in 2029, 2034? And then are you harnessing how you get paid in this industry that direction? And if you're not, you're going to just go to assisted living and pass away. It's just the truth.
Yep. So, okay. So at a very high level, it just comes down to, straight up Darwinism of not the strongest that survive, but those that adapt to the change most effectively and efficiently, that, he or she that does that will go out there and survive and thrive. So what I'm hearing there is, okay, big percentage of the industry not making the correct adaptations that they need to make.
100%. Well, and I think it's not even adapting the way it used to adapt. The traditional era of real estate was very competition driven, very exclusive driven. And you've got the generations of humanity. Like, look at the boomer generation on how they did life compared to the Gen X. I think you're younger Gen X, but majority of older Gen X was like very nomad driven, right? Like, they could disappear for 3 days at a time and their parents didn't even know where they're at. So they became very self-isolated or small grouped or skeptical of things. And then the younger Gen X and millennial generation comes in. We're very collaborative driven. We're very community driven. And so this new order that's here also has a new leadership, has a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things. And it's very community driven in the innovation. And I think that's where people are going to fall behind is they're unwilling to collaborate, or they don't know how to collaborate in a way that's mutually beneficial. So they're stuck into, let's just take the example of how commissions have always been paid. They're stuck in getting paid the same way they've already been paid, instead of saying, well, what if there's a different way? What if there's a way that I can actually get paid multiple times over and over again instead of just one time? And I think that's where it's transitioning, because people that are taking advantage of it, and I say this all the time, is 7 figures is the new 6 figures. Remember when it was like a big deal to make 6 figures? If you're only making 6 figures today, that's not going to get you very far. It's like 7 figures is that new number.
Yeah. I mean, when you adjust for inflation,
Right.
it's like, okay, like, like 100, everybody's like, oh, I want to make 100 grand. Well, dude, 100 grand in 1990, like today, what you'd have to make, like, I think last time I did the calculation, like $490,000 to
Right.
equate
It's
to a production.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, our dollars lost 50% of its purchase power in just the last 4 years, dude.
Easily. And so as I see, sorry, I've got just getting over RSV. So I've got this little bit of a cough. So it's a little annoying, but as we look at where things have been and where they're going, let's take how much cost to service and transact a file. Traditionally for real estate brokerages, it's like 1 staff member for every 25 agents in an organization. Because of technology, you're seeing brands like Real Brokerage where they can service 125 agents for 1 staff member, right? Like, remember when you needed to figure out how, like, when is my real estate license renew? And then you're either asking your VA or trying to figure out through the division, and you're like 15 minutes of wasted brain fog on that crap. Now it's like there's AI that you can just say, hey, when is my license expire? And in 10 seconds or less, it's like, this is when your license expires. This is how many credits you have. The speed of which we can process is changing. And it's like what you're doing in your in your business is these agents come in, you're having conversations and you're saying, okay, well, how do I direct them into the path that I can best serve them? And that's got to include a piece of technology for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what we're talking here, okay, on a very, very macro level, but if we kind of, well, let's do this, dude, because the elephant in the room right now, what everybody's freaking out about right now, I mean, get dropped with this NAR lawsuit settlement. And then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, DOJ drops the hammer on this, and there seems to be 2 camps, man, like those freaking out about it. And then, the other camp, but, and the other camp's kind of split between people that are taking this serious and then people that are burying their head in the sand, but so what are you, cause man, you mentor, coach so many at all levels, agents, team leaders, brokerage owners. Like, what are you guys doing to navigate with these changes? Because there's so much uncertainty right now, which is, I think, one of the reasons why people are freaking out. Because when we're trying to prep and plan for something that we're uncertain. Hey, Joshua Smith here. I hope that you are enjoying this podcast interview. Hey, real quick, and we'll get back to this interview in just here in a moment. But I wanted to let you know, look, if you are a real estate agent, if you are a team leader, if you are a brokerage owner, and maybe your business is down, maybe it's stagnant, maybe it's growing, just not at the pace that you want it to grow at. It's like you're operating down here, but your potential is way up here. You just don't know exactly what to do to get you from exactly where you're at to where it is that you want to go. Now, if that is you, I invite you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure coaching strategy call with me personally. This is going to be a 1 hour long Zoom call. And here's what we're going to break down. We're going to break down where your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals are, what you are currently doing, what the biggest obstacles are that you are facing. Then from there, I'm going to map out and break out exactly what I recommend that you do to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. So by the end of this coaching call, you are going to know exactly what you must do, what you must execute on to, again, get to from where you're at to where it is that you want to go. So I 100% got your back. I got you covered. I will get you dialed in. If you want to take advantage of this, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Now, full disclosure, we're going to spend about 50 minutes going through all that, making sure that we get you dialed in. And at the last 10 minutes, yes, I'm going to spend a few minutes letting you know about my coaching program, what it entails. And look, if it works for you, great. Not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. You have my word that you will know exactly what to do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. I will make sure that this coaching call is extremely valuable, extremely powerful for you to eliminate all that guesswork and get your business dialed in. I got your back. I 100% got you covered. So if you want to take advantage of that, again, www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Certain of what to even prep and plan for.
Well, I believe the 80% of success and happiness, whether it's in business or relationships or your body or health or whatever, 80% of it is psychological and emotional. And so we live in such an uncertain space right now. It's physically affecting humans, like they're people's nervous systems. And so the first thing that I do for me and that I teach my people is let's figure out how to master regulating your nervous system so that when this unknown curveball that's coming down the pipeline is coming at you, you don't freak out and react. You stay calm and you observe, and then you say, okay, let's look at the data and let's make the best decision we can based off the data. You're not going to have all of the data to make the perfect decision, but you have enough. And then that's where, like Napoleon Hill's book, I absolutely love the secret in the Think and Grow Rich. And my hallucination is that it's to trust your hunch, right? Remember, he goes to Canton, Ohio, he borrowed the money from his brother, and his brother-in-law, he's like, hey, I can give you more. And he's like, no, my hunch says, give me $50, right? So he takes the $50. We're in a space right now, if you can regulate your nervous system, I mean, physically calm your nervous system so that you can trust your hunch, you can always create a new effective roadmap. And that's a belief that I'm helping my people continue to develop, is like, I make great decisions and I will always be able to create a new effective roadmap. Because what happens, Josh, is we have our plan, like I have my plan in life, and then there's the fucking plan, right? And usually the plan, it's not what I exactly want, and sometimes come in the form of kicking you in the fucking teeth. Mm-hmm. Now, when it kicks you in the teeth, it's like, okay, how am I going to navigate through first calming my nervous system, then making a decision? Whereas what's happening right now, at least what I'm seeing, is this is kicking people in the nuts, like with their dropped revenues. And we had the heyday from 21 to 23-ish, and they were making all this money. You want to expand your brand. You want to expand your business. And when that happens, people get a little loose on their spending. I've done it before. But then as the revenue starts to drop, maybe 1 month, 2 months, people are in a bit of denial because of normalcy. They think it's going to pop up, pack back. And the brain is actually saying, hey, I can out-earn myself through this. And you can't out-earn in this type of market. So what people have to do is they have to manage their P&L. They've got to be able to cut spending, both financially and emotionally, that's exhausting them, that's not getting a return. And when they do that, what it does, it creates the profit margin. You take the profit margin, both financially and emotionally, and you reinvest it into the thing that's the creative space. And the creative space always leads with value. And so where is the problem right now? Where's the opportunity of people that have uncertainty, and you can go instill certainty to them? And then when that happens, okay, well, now what monetization vehicle do I place them in that? And how do I do that? And so I'm training people to regulate this nervous system first. Then let's have a think time. And then from the think time, let's just take 2 or 3 fucking actions and roll on that. We don't need a million actions. We need like 2 or 3 that just thrive to that next space.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because And I fully agree with you, man. It's like, dude, you got to be calm amongst the storm so you can see the opportunities at hand. So we can't allow ourselves to, be freak out mode. It's, but in order to calm your central nervous system so you can, be calm amongst the storm and see the opportunities at hand, what are some, and I'm sure you probably, there's a lot that goes into this, but how do people do that? Like what are some top tips that you have where people can think clearly and just calm themselves down?
So I remember since our last podcast, I remember I texted you or something, it was years ago, and I was talking to you about ayahuasca, right? Now, I didn't go down that direction. I went down the peyote direction with the Lakota Indian tribe. That's where I first started. And then I started doing some sweat lodges. I started exploring what I thought was spiritual journeys through plant-based medicines. It's really, for me, what I turned out, it's drugs. I started doing high levels of drugs, and I went through a transformation. Honestly, Josh, I think I went to the fucking center of the universe and came back into a different dimension, because this world is different than the one before I went through the process, right? But as I took a look at that, I realized that's not necessarily for me and my brand sustainable to go take people and get them high on drugs and have them have these epiphanies. And so I discovered in 2018 was the beginning, 2018. I'd hosted a small event in New Orleans, and I discovered holotropic breath work. It's very popular now, breathing processes. And I started doing regular breath work. I still do it 5-10 minutes a day. Once a month, I'll do it for 20 or 30 minutes. Occasionally, I'll do 2 or 3 hours of it in a large group. So that's one thing. So what I really discovered, though, is what meditation is. And for me, how I define it, it's the repetitive practice of letting go of fear and shame so that I can step into love and creativity. And so what this allows for me to do is win the fucking game before I play it. Whereas before it was always like, I got to hustle more. I got to win bigger. I got to achieve more. And there was always a more, which I appreciate, but then I couldn't just enjoy walking by the fucking river just for walking by the river. You follow me here?
Yep.
So once I had the clarity of the vision, then it stimulates opportunity to serve and to contribute and to add value. And that's where I lead from. So I'm constantly practicing letting go of the fear and the anxiety, or even letting go of the thought, so that I can allow the creativity to seep into me and just really come to me. And if that makes sense, like the creativity channels through me now, because I've moved the fog of the fear away as much as possible.
Yep.
So daily, let me give you daily actions. For me, every day, it's simple. First 2 minutes, I think about 3 things that made me just laugh or smile that were magic moments in the previous day. So like, it's simple things like this. I have an 8-year-old daughter that just did the speech festival. In the morning of the speech festival, I go to wake her up, and she just does this big yawn and stretch, and she's like, is today the big day? Right? Like, so I relive that moment in my mind. Second thing is, I go through a prayer and I have conversations with God. And the real thing a conversation with God is for me is about organizing my thoughts for the day in a way that's driven to compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, and not so much frustration or overwhelm like I used to feel. From there, I go into 10 to 15 minutes of breath work, stretching, Tai Chi, and I finish it off with a meditation and usually a visualization. So like that right there, that practice time frame for me is what allows me to feel the calm and the peace that I want in my life. And then from there, that's where my creativity stems from.
Yep. So some element of self-care that then creates the right perspective, puts in the right physical, emotional, and spiritual frame so you can go out there and then operate your best version of yourself, make those right decisions, and love it, dude. Love it, man. So then, okay. So yeah, because I mean, there are, like when I'm having conversations with people at times, they're like, yeah, man, like there just seems to be this pent up anxiety in so many people, but they don't even know why they're anxious. And to what you said earlier, I'm like, yeah, people, I mean, they feel it, but they don't know what's going on. And I get it's hard to pay attention to what's going on with deglobalization and, everything that we're experiencing. But man, if they can't manage that anxiety, then difficult.
Hold on, I want to stop because you said something as we went in this NAR conversation. And I mean, think about what the DOJ is doing right now.
Yeah.
DOJ is, my opinion, weaponizing against freedom.
Yep.
And you look at the big antitrust lawsuit against Apple right now. The challenge is why realtors are finally feeling this is, besides the economic situation, is the DOJ has made realtors as a fucking target. They're saying, hey, these guys are colluding and collaborating, which in a sense, I kind of agree with the lawsuit in the sense, yeah, being forced to put a commission on MLS and the script of I work for you for free bullshit is just isn't true. So in a sense, it's kind of allowed, in my opinion, bottom feeder, not skilled real estate agents to still get paid a fee they actually don't deliver an exchange of value for in that. Whereas like what you've done in your organization and the way your organization serves people is probably worth 10 times more than what you actually charge. And so it's skewed that. But then the question becomes is, well, deglobalization, what's going on with the DOJ? Why is this being attacked right now? And how do you navigate through it? Because we don't know how it's going to turn out. And shit, who knows? Maybe we all just get in a big old fucking cat fight and blow the world up. I don't fucking know, right? But maybe though, maybe God's got a plan. And maybe the world's always going to go to God. And when you trust in that and you just do your part to serve, it gets better. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. And at a very high level, it's like, okay, going back to what you said earlier of calming your central nervous system, it's like, look, the powers that be realized a long time ago, if they can keep us in a constant agitated state, can easily control. And this stems back from Joseph Goebbels, teaming up with the Carnegie Institute back during the Nazi era, World War II, where they discovered that, okay, hey man, if we change the frequency of the A tone of the music, okay, like if you go through and put your music that you listen to through like a 432 hertz converter, dude, you feel totally different. But they adjusted and had all universities adjust the A tone because it puts you in a constant, more agitated state. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is to not go down rabbit holes on that. But it's like, look, dude, if we don't learn how to manage that internal self-agitation, well, we can be calm, control our perspective, right? Then it's difficult to be calm amongst the storm, to your point earlier.
When you look at deglobalization, America since the World War II has become the leading empire. And if you look at what happened since, starting before World War II and definitely afterwards, the progression of the decline of the British Empire and the Commonwealth, and how long, especially if you look at the time when Margaret Thatcher, if anyone knows about who she is and what her role as the PM was, she was the one that was kind of saying, hey, like this shit's falling apart. Let's try and put it back together. And not that the UK is a crappy place, but they definitely aren't the empire that they once were. And you started seeing Australia break away, Canada break away, and you saw the Commonwealth just disband into where now it's kind of like the UK. And that same thing is now the beginning phases in my hallucination of the American empire. Part of me wants to believe that we're going to innovate as an United States in a Western order and it's going to work out great. Part of me's got to think China's fucking going to be really taking over that next stage of the order. And I think that can become scary for what at least my generation's been programmed is that's the communist world order. Now, as I start to learn more about China, I don't think that's the real objective. I do think, though, we don't need their population because they're automating everything and they can produce things at such a mass for such a small cost that they'll decline their population and yet their GDP is going to dwarf ours. You start to see move shipping routes and the change of how the world order has been with goods being shipped and delivered. And that's very scary to think about, well, what happens to us if we're no longer the big gorilla on the mountain?
Yep.
But yet, look at, I know you mentioned Ecuador before. Look at what that leader from Ecuador, the president of Ecuador, is doing right now. Like he's actually strengthening Ecuador, right? Look at how countries over the years have, the Dutch Empire, when they collapsed, look at how they are now. Like it doesn't suck to live there, right? It's not like the end of the world.
Yep. Yeah. Life goes on, man. Right. And I'll get people like, how do you, not stay depressed? Like people that most people don't have awareness of what's going on, right. But those that do, I'm like, look, dude, like worst case, like, let's just say we do become, China, because we're becoming more and more, of I mean the democracy, the democratic republic that people are accustomed to is obviously getting ripped apart, right? But I'm like, look, dude, there's still people that are happy living in, China, let's just say. There's still billionaires in China. There's still, like, no matter what, like, if you choose to, life can still be amazing, and you can still go out there and create massive opportunities for yourself and your family.
That's the key right there. And so people might not have anxiety because they see this macro level. They have anxiety because they're scrolling on TikTok or they're seeing what CNN publishes a freaking headline just to grab attention or whatever. And it's hard to follow all the pieces. And so when you said earlier, I don't remember if it was before or after the podcast started, it's like going back to the old world in one way, in a sense, like, yeah, spend more time at the lake without your phone, without hearing even us talking on a fucking podcast. Spend time just hearing the birds chirp or your kids laughing or the water splashing. And what that does is it goes back to what you're saying. It physically calms your nervous system so that you can see the beauty in this amazing gift of life in the first place.
Yep, 100%. Okay, so then earlier, right after you talked about the central nervous system, you started jumping into P&Ls. And I'm guessing that we're in alignment here, but I've been telling, speaking to this, everybody that will listen for the last couple of years now, of like, look, dude, if you are not a great operator, meaning treating your business as a business, and if you do not learn how to play strategic offense, your business is going to get ripped apart into what's coming. And we're, been seeing that take place, and just people getting ripped apart. So when it comes to treating your business as a business, I mean, I don't know, what's your best guess of the percentage of people that don't track their numbers, that don't even run a P&L, don't even know what a P&L is in this industry?
I mean, best guess is 95%.
Yeah.
More. So like we're looking at in Real Brokerage launching the One Real Wallet. That's a whole other conversation. But in an essence, what that will allow is we can become a bank to our agents. And we're looking, okay, well, if they're going to have a debit card is one aspect. Another aspect is a charge card. And another aspect is a business line of credit. Roughly 70% are still in that charge card space because that means that they're sole proprietor. They're not even filing taxes as an S corp at the minimum. Now, then you've got the people that are in an S corp, and then that whole difference is, well, how many of them even have a bookkeeper, or is it come April 15th, they're the night before, like trying to go through all their bank statements and put some stuff together for their accountant, which is a lot of people. But there's even more people that it's become a behavior of extending. Like, let's just extend. We'll kick it down the road. I can't tell you how many freaking people I start working with, Josh, and this isn't judging them, but more of an observation. They're 2-3 years behind on even filing taxes because they just haven't even wanted to deal with it. So then there's even fewer people that actually do the profit and loss, but then understanding that profit and loss statement, and you've been programmed, hey, get an S corp and write off everything. So now everything they spend, even if it's like freaking the Costco outing on Sunday for family lunch or dinner, they're buying all the shit. They're expensing that. They can't look in their P&Ls and identify this is a real expense versus an owner benefit in their P&Ls. They're not measuring their cost of sell. They're not measuring and staying in a percentage of, well, I can spend 20, 30, whatever that percentage of my revenue back in marketing. They're just going wild with it. And so you said strategic planning, and really what we're seeing, especially in 21 and 22, when things took off strategic expansion or strategic offense, I think you call it. We're seeing creative offense, meaning people are just fucking throwing darts at balloons, hoping they hit one, and they're spending a shit ton of money because there was money to be spent there. I mean, they gave out millions of dollars with EIDL loans. How many of these small business owners receive that? And so what I would recommend, condensing this back, because I'm all over the place, go read the book, The Ultimate Blueprint for a Wildly Successful Business by Keith Cunningham. And really, you only need chapters like 2 to 5, 2 to 6, something like that. And you probably know all this stuff right now, but the listeners, that's going to teach you really how that profit and loss statement works and identifying these terms and understanding the difference in all of these spaces. Then if you can get great at knowing how a P&L works, P&Ls become, in my opinion, real estate properties. Like I've got a project I'm working on right now in one of my businesses I've built that we're looking either to sell it or do a merger with another company. And yet as I look at that, and I'm looking even the possibility of how that would work out for me financially, whether it goes through or not, it's like that piece of paper, not paper, but system has become a cash value revenue, now a sellable asset. I did a silly thing. I bought an Orange Theory Fitness, right? I bought it on discount, built it up. We sold it about 11 months later. And so I started seeing these P&Ls as actual assets of residual revenue and cash assets that I could sell and then grow into other things. We have to learn, what does that look like? And the biggest, most important expense, in my opinion, as small business, because I'm not Amazon, I'm not talking unicorn. That's a whole other thing I don't understand. It's not me. But the first expense is profit. And if you're not taking the very first expense line as profit, setting that aside, and then you operate your business on what's left, you don't really have an asset to sell. You don't really have anything to sell. You might have built some assets with it, but most realtors, they're not taking the time to study on how do I get great at a P&L statement.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, okay. So one of your specialties, dude, is, taking realtors, get them to 6 figures and then get them to 7 figures. What would you say is for somebody, I mean, let's just say, okay, that agent that's maybe doing 50, 60 grand, first step, they want to get to 6 figures. But then from there, okay, going from 6 figures to 7 figures, like what are the benchmark? Like what are the different stages? Like what's the difference
Yeah.
that you get at a high level between those types of operators?
How I've kind of identified is there's 5 levels of real estate professionals, real estate agents. Level 1 is kind of that 0 to 50,000. Everyone starts there. And I call this the appointment setting phase. Like all you should be doing is getting great at talking to people and setting appointments. You shouldn't be trying to figure out like how to make a viral TikTok or any of that crap. Like in my opinion, you should be focused on how do I go get my next appointment? And the quickest way that I know how to do that still to this day is go door knocking. Like the next quickest way I know how to do that today is go host an open house and then have a whole strategy to knock the entire neighborhood. And so you're having these conversations with people, you're setting the appointments. The second level is what I call the network level. That's really like 50,000 to maybe like 150,000 a year range. And really what these people should start doing now is really focusing on constructing, in my opinion, a database or a sphere of influence. And so as they're accumulating these leads and these conversations, they need to have a CRM, and they need to be able to utilize that CRM to categorize name, number, email, cell phone, name, number, email, mailing address, if possible, and really even start to get into social media where you're categorizing their social handles as well. And you design a plan around that to stay in touch with those people and build and strengthen the relationship. That then takes you to about that 150 to probably 300 range, 350 range. And I call that the leverage level. This is where now you're pretty busy. And so you have to start looking at your dollar per hour activities, and you have to start letting go of the lower dollar per hour activities and spend your attention on the higher dollar per activities. And so there's 2 ways to leverage that I've developed. One is technology asset. I'm utilizing technology to follow systems. And I design a system, I call a system, it's a repetitive pattern that creates a predictable result. And so then the technology can run that pattern for me. But the other asset at this level I start hiring are human assets, or I start doing as human asset. And so then the human oversees the repeatable pattern that creates a predictable result. And so when you start to leverage that space, it then will develop you to level 4, which is usually 350, as well as maybe up to like 750 to probably $1 million really at this stage. And this is what I call the leadership level. Leadership levels, the only way you're going to expand is that it's a we versus just me. You have to bring in more humans into the ecosystem, into the company. And the most important thing with this is understand, well, what is a CEO? And a CEO evangelizes the vision and the culture and the standards of the company. And culture, if I can put it into words, it's more of an energy that's felt than anything. But if I put it into words, it's do the right thing, do the best you can, and show others that you care. And if you look at what human beings want when they're in an organization, it's typically not the driving force is more money. The driving force is typically appreciation and feeling like they're valued and that they're part of something. And so what creates that is one is a really incredible culture with what values you move towards. And those values have to stand for bigger than the company, bigger than even me as the CEO. But then the other part of the culture is, well, what I'm moving away from. We're moving away from the drama, the entitlement, the laziness, the dishonesty. And as you move forward, your job is to evangelize this repetitively so people can absorb it. And then leadership also, I believe right now, especially, is about instilling certainty. Like, there's the fucking island. Let's burn the boats and fucking take this thing. Who's with me? And if you're the one that has the most certainty, more people are going to follow with you, especially then you appreciate them for being on the journey. They're going to help you grow this vision of yours. And then the fifth level is usually that 7 figures or beyond, in my opinion, is the ownership level. That's where now I can replace myself as the CEO and I can have a revenue stream, and I can now move myself to another project to get creative on and start another revenue stream.
Yep. No, love that, dude. So let's focus on kind of that 4th and 5th level, dude, right?
Yeah.
Because look, I mean, got a bazillion people who've interviewed on this podcast, other podcasts that people tell, like, oh, how do I go out there and put but that 4th and 5th level, just from my own personal experience, those are the hard ones to really fucking crack, dude. And it took me, and I don't even know if I still am a great leader, right? Like, okay, like I'm always working on it and what that means. And, so people are there to get to that kind of 350 to million mark, that leader, what have you found for yourself personally through your experience? What are you coaching your clients or doing this at a high level, to really become that great leader that they must metamorphosize into?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 things. One is, and we've touched on 2 of them already. One is to really define your culture. Because what most companies do is either A, they don't have established values, or B, if they do, they put them in the olden days in a folder and tucked them away. You gave it to them when they came on, and then they never got talked about again. Or they're in a Google Drive folder somewhere. But it literally has to be the conversation all the time. Alex and Layla Hormozy, I was in a mastermind with them in October. They say it really, really well. It's like, reward the cultural behavior. Don't punish the lack of it. And so it's learning, well, let's reward on this. The second, we won't dive in details, but we talked about it's I'm teaching them, how do I really understand a profit and loss statement? What is it I'm really reading here? Can I quickly understand what my expenses are that are for the business versus I bought a fucking side-by-side to plow my driveway because I thought I needed it, right? Like, you in understanding in detail what that is. But then the third thing that I'm really teaching is, well, how do I speak and train in front of groups of people in a way that I'm not speaking at them, I'm engaging them? And because 50%, I learned this from you. In fact, I remember I was sitting, you had spoken in a mastermind I was hosting. You came in through TV when we were in Vegas, and you said 50% of value is perceived value. And I remember that. And so then, well, what good is the value I'm bringing if I can't help my organization or the people that I'm in front of see the value? And so learning the ways to engage the audience or gauge your team, the people you lead, in a way that they receive value. And so I learned this from Tony. It's called the value chain of communication. And there's 3 rules. The first is, everyone, you got to build this in your culture, is 100% responsibility for effective sending of information and receiving of information. Then part 2 is 100% of interaction, whether it's me with my organization or with a customer, is no matter what, 100% adds significant value so that when they leave that conversation, they feel better than before the interaction. And then third, which is changed my world, but it's called clarify and verify, which sounds so simple. So let me give you an example. We had one of our members, they, for whatever reason, they lost access to their membership area or couldn't find it or something. And so I sent the thing in Slack for my team to figure it out. And then they figured it out. But then, like, 2 weeks later, she sends me a message. She's like, hey, no, I still have access to this. And so I checked the notes and I talked to my team and they're like, no, she absolutely does. I sent it to them on this date. They're dated. And then it hit me. I wasn't training my team to say, once you've sent it, reach out and verify and clarify she's actually got the access. Because then once we did that part, she was in easy peasy. And that sounds like a little teeny thing, but it's, if you can take those elements of the communication chain so that people leave feeling better, then that's how I found for me that people can get the perception value that you taught me. And so that's what we really train is how do you effectively communicate that to where it's verified?
Yep.
Not just in a chain like that, but also in front of a large audience. Like I'll speak in front of like 1,000 people and the person before me is like super boring because they just speak at them. And then I come on and I'm completely interacting with them. And it's like a conversation. There's skill sets that allow that to happen.
Yep. 100%, dude. 100%. And, you know, dude, like when you brought up culture there, I mean, it's a word that gets thrown around all the time, but dude, it is so essential, you know, and I always look at, okay, if you want to become a great leader, you know, like identify what the core values are that are essential to you as you ought, because it's like what culture is really just an overarching, you know, shadow of us as the owner of the organization, you know, right? But the hard part most have is, okay, once they stepped out and they're gone, that culture very easily fizzles out. So if you don't know how to nail this one, you know, because culture, like that's how you're hiring, that's how you're making, you know, a lot of core decisions around. But I always look at, okay, once you've established your core values, your job as a leader is to operate at level 10 of those every single fucking day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You
When
know,
you think how people learn, like how children learn, they learn from modeling. The
yep.
organization's only going to learn if they can model it from you. They're going to remember specific incidents where it really mattered. They're going to remember a verbal thing that they were overseeing and hearing that. And so you're right in that aspect that it's up to you to show up in that place. I do think that it's this way with, because culture is the energy. It's the fuel that drives the engine and drives the vehicle. But I would love to say I'm level 10 all the time. And the reality is, Josh, I'm not level 10
Yep.
all the time. And so I've written mine in such a way that it doesn't give an excuse for when I fall off, but it's anytime I do this thing or that thing or that thing, so that when I realize I'm off, I can get back on. And a great culture, and from the book Culture Code, if you've ever read it, I love Culture Code. It's an amazing book. It's really about creating a safe and vulnerable place for people to correct and continue. Because I believe most people are genuinely great souls. Then they want to do great things. And when put in that environment where they have the chance to do greatness, they'll choose it as long as they can choose it without being severely punished for when they fuck up.
Yep.
And not that you don't have to have standards in how you do hold it, but you can't belittle and shame people. And I think that's part of the traditional world that I'm talking about. Like I take a look at one of the first events I ever went to was a Mike Ferry event. I mean, obviously he's kind of the godfather of real estate coaching. He's been around like 50,000 years. I don't know, right? But then I also started looking at, okay, well, Mike's, I don't know how old he is now. I see how many wives he's went through. I see that one of the things he teaches is like, hey, in order to go make more money, go get more debt. So it forces you to make more money. Spend 75% of your business getting new business and only 25 COI. These are the things I started hearing, and which probably originally worked, but it also doesn't align with me, right? And so the older way of doing this, like shame people into their next stage versus giving them an opportunity. It works for some people, but not an over level extent of it.
Yep. 100%, dude. Dude. So then if we get into that level 5, that ownership level, the way that I interpret this, and correct me if I'm missing anything or I'm wrong, but the way that I interpret this is, okay, this is where you go from, you know, it's like, if we look at the different phases, it's like, okay, yeah, you're in the thick of it in production, you know, then you get yourself out of the essential non-money making activities, you know, so that's where you plug it in, and then, you know, admin and getting your system process refined. Well, then eventually you get to that level where you start bringing on agents, you get out of production, but you're still the you know, in the thick of the day-to-day operations. And then that 5th level is where you're able to then get out of, essentially building out your leadership team, getting out of day-to-day operations. So now you built a business that you can go disappear from, you know, if necessary, not that you have to, but that's running and operating from itself. So then you actually have a sellable asset.
Correct. And I think originally I wanted to do this for the wrong reason. I thought it was so I didn't have to work and I could just go hang out or whatever. And what I really realized is it's like, no, when there was the plan where I call it tunnel man, where like things kind of get fucked up. Like I'll give you an example. This last year, my director of experience, amazing woman in our organization, her husband's esophagus cancer came back. And so like he went from skiing at my house last year, normal sized human being, to like 125 pounds. That's a real reason why this shit fucking matters, in my opinion, because it's when the crisis happens, the thing that's out of your control happens, you can step back and you can take care of business the way you need to take care of business. The other reason why it's super important is I won't personally, I don't think a lot of people will be happy just sitting on a beach sipping pina coladas, at least for not for very long.
Yeah.
And so there's this creative aspect inside of the human soul, and you start to unleash that soul, new ways come to serve the marketplace and to serve other people. And Garrett Gunderson says it well. He has a new book, new Wall Street bestseller, which is an amazing book. It's called Money Unmasked. But he explains it as the first step is the vision, the second is lead with value, and then third, the money is the byproduct, and then prosperity becomes the being. And so some of the ways that he's done it, and I think is quite funny, is he had a company called Wealth Factory, and he sold it for a bunch of money. And then his vision was, well, I actually want to go teach wealth principles through stand-up comedy. So then he starts learning how to master stand-up comedy. Then he's got this new wild thing is where he wants to do a one-man Broadway show teaching financial principles from his book. And it's super wild, but he gets to work out of a space of creativity that he's inspired to do it from versus having to do it. If
Yep.
you follow me.
Yep. Love it, dude. So, all right. So you're the first dude I've seen. I don't know if you coined the term, but infopreneur. So,
Dude,
so what is an infopreneur? What does that mean?
So I've been 2010, I saw these little ads pop up like on websites and I couldn't leave the damn website. And that was where I learned about like funnels. And I was like, obviously something's working with these, whoever's in charge of that's making some money. I want to figure this out. Okay. And as I went through my life and I started learning, I realized we went into an information stage. And I think we're even developing out of that right now. In infopreneurship is like taking this entrepreneur that wants to go be creative and make money, but they're doing it through the information world. Like, here's what you're doing. You've systematized information. You even said, we got this podcast, last one was 2017, you got all organized information. And then what happens is that information is sent out there. Some of it people get for free. And then some people come in and then they pay maybe a smaller paywall, $300 or whatever. And then it goes up to where, you know, my highest paywall is $50,000 to where, so you're basically monetizing organized information. I do think it's moving a little bit from just monetizing the organized information to monetizing influencing information, like information that's actually will influence change. But anyway, in a nutshell, that's what Infopreneur is in my definition. And it's really being monetized by creating a personal brand, which you've done a beautiful job of. And I think maybe even people, when I look at your brand, because I look at your Instagram, it's not like this fire Instagram by any means, but what I think people don't see is the internal part of the brand where you can communicate to a lot of people effectively. And that might not be a giant view like on your Instagram, but I guarantee internally, you guys know exactly where all of your data is. And that's really what is required moving forward for your brand is, okay, you have these people that you serve, they become raving fans of you. And then there's a new product you want to launch or a new partnership you believe in. And then you get to go expose your audience to it. And then they get to make a decision to be a part of that or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And do with, you know, this explosion and just exponential growth of technology and AI. I don't know if you share the same belief, but I truly believe, I don't have a crystal ball, so I could be wrong, but personal brand is going to be that much more essential going forward.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most important. And I think there's different ways to do the personal brand, by the way, because like I got one of my homies, he's freaking amazing. We call him Pony Boy, but we've been friends since we were like teenagers. He sold his company a couple of years ago for about 170 million. And the dude's like completely off the radar. But yet he has a database of people in his phone that now he's working like on right now, one of his things, he's just got $100 million line of credit because of leveraging some things, right? So the brand is really relationships. And there's a big view, like a big level, like we see what you're doing, Alex Hormozy, Chris Crohn's doing, which I think is super important. But I think there's a really micro level too, which is, well, maybe you don't have publicly all over, but you've got some high level influential people with aligned values that you can tap into as well.
Yep. Yep. Love it, dude. All right. So let's circle back to getting a little bit tactical here with the NAR DOJ changes, because if the DOJ gets the way that they want with true commission decoupling, and again, I don't have a crystal ball, but my best guesstimation, it will disrupt buyer agency probably by like around 90%. And how I come up to that conclusion is, look, I coach agents and team leaders and broker owners in countries like New Zealand that have, true decoupling, right? And pretty much everybody's just mega listing agents. And, so with that, like what would your recommendation advice be, from inside their business of what to focus on right now to go out there and be best prepared for these changes, whatever these changes may be?
Well, I think what's interesting is it'll depend a lot on who wins this next election, on what way this will go. Now, if it goes in a way that I hope it doesn't go, regardless, the first thing is you've got to become a figure of authority, because right now it's no longer good enough to be an expert. Everyone claims to be an expert, but a figure of authority is people listen to, right? People, they're gonna follow you because they trust the vibration that you put out. So the first is you got to develop that. The second is you've got to get incredible at your communication skills of presenting. And part of presenting, whether it's a buyer or a seller, you got to help people understand the economics of the transaction. And where people could fall short in this is they're going too data point driven, which is, it does help, but really you've got to get great at explaining the economics of the deal through storytelling so people can understand and picture it in their mind. And then the third, in my opinion, which goes back to infopreneurship, is you've got to learn to monetize this agent economy differently, or the real estate economy differently than you have before. I don't like to admit this, but I think that we will continue to see a compression of commissions. Now, I don't think that you're not going to have an opportunity to make 7 or multiple 7 figures. I actually think you will. But what if you get really great at mastering the listings and you're building this personal brand to where other real estate professionals want to learn with you? I mean, it's essentially what you've done with the GSD mode, and they want to learn from you. And now you can serve them and monetize that. And there's so many vehicles to monetize that today. I don't remember we said this before after the podcast. I've got 2,300 people in my network at Real Brokerage now. That is a 7-figure plus a year residual revenue. It'll be multiple 7 figures, maybe even 8 figures over the next 10 years per year. So you've got to look at, well, how can I monetize differently? Is it launching an infopreneurship product? Is it like Ricky Carruth? I know you've had him on before. He's done it really well with affiliate programs, working with Red X or Constant Contact, things like that. Is it where, well, maybe now I start to get a percentage of other codes? But what I'm saying is you've got to monetize the economy more than just the transaction, or monetize the transaction multiple ways. And then the fourth is that, in my opinion, is you got to be kind and compassionate. I'm as I'm talking about a lot of this stuff online lately, I feel like I'm getting more hate comments online than I've ever had before.
Mm.
And then I take a step back, and I had a mentor tell me this years ago. George Morris, in fact, he's the CEO of the #1 C21 on the planet for a while. And he says, Colton, if you treat other people like they might be going through one of the worst challenges of their life, half the time you're probably right. And so I think this element of kindness, as you're doing that, and you see whether it's a client or another agent kind of like maybe being a little aggressive or unkind or reactive themselves, take a step back, take a chill pill, and if you need to, just ignore it. Like, don't get enrolled into the threads online and chat about it. Don't gossip about it to other people. In fact, even say a silent positive prayer for the person. And I think if you can really keep that kindness through this, remember, we're all going through some changes, real estate wise, politically, domestically, foreign, currency wise. I mean, everything is radically changing right now. And yet I do think it's for the best. And if you look at history, I'll stop there. I'm off on a tangent now, but be kind is my point.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that, dude. Love it all, man. Yeah, because I heard a saying, I don't know who originally said it, but saying that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Right. Which is like, usually when people like, it's like, dude, if somebody's like, you put out a video, right? And somebody just comes out there and just, okay, like for them to go off in that way, okay, like they are hurting, right? And it's just easier for them to tear out somebody else down versus figuring out a way to lift themselves up. And, so I love that perspective, dude.
Well, here's an interesting thing about the infopreneurship branding space, the online branding space. What works for marketing is causes me a little bit of conflict right now because polarization works. But then it's okay. Well, if I'm tapping into polarization, am I actually working towards the more common good of humanity? And I think you've done a great job of you're not really polarizing in the sense of divisiveness, but I think what you've done is you've polarized in the sense of where people become your fan. So like a great example has been in some of my content lately is talking about this exactly with NAR, because it rallies the troops of realtors almost versus the DOJ type of deal. And they start to say not necessarily negative things and not necessarily positive things, but more neutral things. And then so that's the sticking point, right? Like, is with the polarization, not doing it in a way that like you're causing these divisive conversations. I think I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree, dude. I go through that as well, man. That because because you and I, we have a very high level understanding of human behavior, but it does create some internal conflicts on, okay, based on how our core values and our operation styles, because like you talked about with me, okay, like I have a very strict rule, when it comes to content creation and just like my number one core value inside my organization is no assholes.
Yeah.
It's not fancy, but like we're here to uplift, not tear down. But that's okay. Every piece of content I put out, or even when I'm replying to people or my team's replying to people on my behalf for me, it's like, hey, we are here to uplift, never tear down.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had death threats, dude. And it's, even when I get the death threats, I had people threaten to shoot me, whatever. And it's just, when you get those, hey, apologize that you feel that way. But on a deeper level, man, I hope everything's okay. If there's anything I can do to serve, support, and help you, please let me know. DM me. Here's my private email. Yeah, right. Of just, just uplift, not tear down. But that's one of my core, but that's everything that I do has to operate within that value, and so but it does create those internal conflicts, dude. Because even with sales styles, it's like, okay, like I know, man, jumping in with deep consequence, like I could grind this and get that credit card, but like, does that go against my, core value operation styles? And, what you said earlier, dude, about the agent, because really what you're speaking of, okay, agent looking for multiple revenue sources. What you're speaking to there really is just what broker owners have been doing forever.
Right.
Yeah, right. Like meaning, okay, like when I'm coaching a broker owner client or a big team, it's like we got to get to 5 revenue sources as soon as possible. You got, company dollars, so that'd be your commission splits as one. But then from there, strategically, let's just say you do a joint venture with a mortgage company. Then you got insurance. Then you got, with title. Then maybe you got property management, or you're buying the building and then you're leasing out spaces. Now, what you're talking about is carrying that over to the agent side. So they're getting paid on multiple sources of revenue.
Totally.
Not just, and I always look at this as the movie theater concept. The movie's not trying to bank money just off the box office ticket sales. That might even be a loss leader for them. But then same vertical, same POS system, same staff. Now they're upselling you soda, popcorn, all these different things. So that's what you're speaking to. Am I hearing that correctly? Of agents capitalizing on that now too.
100%. And with that, it's got to fit what you can have influence over. So let's take mortgage for a second. I've got 2,300 agents in my network now, over nearly 1,800 students through my training. And it hasn't for many years made sense for me to really bring in that mortgage company because I personally don't have control over the transactions as much as they do. Whereas now there's some elements that's been developed that I'm working on where I can get paid on mortgages in 50 states through some projects that may or may not work out, I'm not directly marketing to the buyer or the seller. I'm marketing to the agent because that's where my audience is. See, it wouldn't make sense for me personally to go launch a title company because I'm not sending the 1,000 transactions through it. So just because you think that it's a way to go do it, it has to make sense with whatever your funnel is that you can make more money off of the current audience. So I think agents might not have that power if they're not doing thousands of deals, but they could look at partnering with others as a JV. They could look at, I mean, how many, like there's this gal, one of my members in the mastermind in Boise, Idaho. She hasn't necessarily sold a lot of homes, but she's really great at Instagram. And so then what she started doing was getting all these followers from realtors. And so she launched an Instagram course and now makes a couple $100,000 a month teaching realtors how to generate leads on Instagram. And so you have to find the opportunity of where the multiple monetization is. And so I look at mine, I've really picked it in. My right fit agent are agents that make 300,000 to $1 million a year, and they want to develop into that space. But now guess what? I can monetize them on that piece. I can monetize them on a coaching platform. I can monetize them because now I'm referring them off on a brand deal with getting their P&L statements figured out. So now I've got a brand deal over here. I'm monetizing them because I believe one of the first investments people should make is a guaranteed whole life policy. So I'm sending them over and I'm monetizing that. So then you're monetizing. It has to be in a way that you believe in and that can actually impact the people, and you have a flow. Because otherwise, if I go try to launch a title company, dude, I'm going to take so much time just trying to build an audience to get the deals to it. I think that's the key that's important with whatever your brand you're building.
Yeah. And one of the great vehicles, now this wasn't, these weren't around when you and I, got in the game back in the day. But like companies like yours, dude, with the EXPs, with the Reals, the LPTs, the Canzels. I know there's, a lot more that are kind of copycatting and launching and, but just look at the explosive growth that we're seeing with these companies have. But, and I know in our industry, dude, there's a lot of like, either people hate them or they love them. I'm personally a huge fan, even though I might not be with that style of a company personally, but I love the fact of, okay, for my whole entire career, dude, it was always the broker owner that won. It was never the agent. And these companies have allowed it where now the agents can go out there and win. Like you go out there and kick ass, right? Then you can mentor without having the exposure and the risk. But even like my whole, I've been building a team for 19 years and it's like, okay, like, dude, okay, I go spend all this time recruiting this agent, get him trained up, get him rock and rolling, get him to kick ass. Well, now they're ready to go start their own team. And then they come to me, oh, hey man, I appreciate everything that you've done for me. I'm going to leave the team, start my own team, but I'm staying with Remax. And you're like, oh, well, that's great. Like, right. Like you just always feel like, okay, I'm just losing. And the broker owners always won. But under, something like with your line with Real, okay, like, dude, if I would have started building a team, 20 years ago under that platform exists, look how many people I'd have in my downline just from, it's insane.
Well, that's what I'm talking about with the new order of real estate. Because if you look at the least profitable publicly traded brands last year, one of them was an innovative company, but I don't even know how they keep operating, but is Compass. And I have nothing against Compass, but when you're losing almost $300 million a year, well, maybe something's off there, right? Then you look at Open Door or Redfin, they're still, and so what those three companies have in common though is they're looking to innovate, and this is what I appreciate about them is a real estate tech firm.
Yeah.
Now, whether they actually are or not, that's another discussion, but that's the way. Whereas if you look at Century 21 or the Anywhere brand in general, Better Homes and Garden, all of those, they're still traditional brokerages. In the future of a real estate brokerage, it's not a place, it's a network. And that's what you've designed. So if you look at EXP and Real, they are and companies got smashed this last year, so they were still slightly negative, but they were the less profitable companies, meaning they did the best. And it's because they can service more clients for fewer dollars, which makes their margins bigger. Plus, though, Real, there's 17,000 now. They've got 17,000 marketers because then they redistribute up to 60% of the revenue back to us for building the company. And now you look at how asymmetrical works. Like I started getting stock awards for like 80 cents. They're worth $3.50, $4 a share now. You saw what EXP did. It's very likely I could see a day that they're $30 a share. So now we're talking 4.5, 5 million for the number of shares that I own. Now you've got the revenue on top of it. But here's the real cool thing. And I think a lot more companies are going to go this way. And I think this is the future of real estate, truthfully, is the technology they're developing is Real said, okay, if you look at commissions, how they're paid out, 90+% pay out to the agent, and the company doesn't actually make any money off of that. So the question becomes, well, what if we could monetize that? So what Real did is they said, okay, well, let's write in our software, let's write into our code that we create a wallet. Let's get approved. Let's become a bank. So now when the file is approved, which is all very quick and easy, instantly funds are distributed into your One Real wallet. Now, all of a sudden, okay, I can change that out and put it into a bank, or I can use my One Real debit card. And each time that I run my debit card, as an agent, Real makes a percentage of that. And why is that important for you as the agent? Well, it's important for you because now the revenue goes up and the stock shares go up and you make more money on the equity of that. They're also doing something really cool that for people like me, I think is just fascinating. So they're because they have all the data, they're always compiling on how they can underwrite me as a value, or the agents. So they're going to be issuing lines of credits. So, if I got a $3 million a year revenue share, and they're going to write me, so let's say $1.5 million, I can tap into $1.5 million operating capital where I can go invest in other projects and I can expand faster. So really, I think for years, it's been like, we got to be agent centric. And what I think what Real's doing is like, well, let's be entrepreneur centric. And these companies that develop, because there's more going to develop this model. I don't know what's going to come of them. If they can look at, well, how can we monetize more differently while still having the agents actually make more? Now, all of a sudden, you look at an investor standpoint. I'm looking at it as, okay, if I was on Wall Street and I want to look at investing in these things, I could invest in a regular tech company, or even just a brokerage, and maybe get like a 5-6x multiple, something like that. I could get into maybe a tech company, maybe get as much as a 10x multiple. But now let's get a fintech company. Now we're talking 20-25x multiple on this. And if you've got a share, so then what happens to the future? These other companies that aren't able to produce as effectively and cost efficient, there's still a value there. So big firms are going to come in and buy that. You saw actually Compass do a deal like that where they just bought 3,100 agents. So you're going to see it engulfed in this direction to where really it's about buying transactions, because if you can buy the transactions, you can squeeze the juice out of them more different ways while simultaneously making it more cost effective for the customer and the agent, because it's less to service them because of the systems and the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very, very, high level, dude. I love all that shit, but then even, just for that, like, okay, dude, I got a buddy. I was having a conversation with him not too long ago. Now, this is a dude that, at EXP, and he's 100% only focused on growing his business. Yeah. Right. Like never wanted to go out there and be the recruiter. And, because a lot of people think that, okay, if you're going to go to these companies, got to recruit all these agents and he's like, no, he just want to focus on his own business. But over the years, dude, he's got about $3,000 a month coming in now from rev share. Not necessarily, he isn't actively recruited, just over the years, several, agents, you get a couple that end up joining
100%.
because they're friends and heard of him. And, well, that's kind of a nice little nut that he would have never got if he wasn't with a company, of this style. And then you had another buddy of mine that, owned a very successful brokerage, but he shut down the brokerage to go join one of these companies. And I was asking him, I'm like, because it was kind of surprising to me, at the time that he did it. Now I get it and understand it. But, I asked him, I was like, dude, like, why'd you do it, man? And he's like, dude, for years, I've been trying to get my agents to go out there and invest in real estate and build up some type of a retirement. And no matter what I did, they would never do it. But this way, at least now my agents can have some element of a retirement and can go out there and win, so, but this was a guy that, like, probably going through the brokerage, keeping the brokerage would have been more of a win for him. But he was, obsessed with, how do I create a win for everybody, not just me? And the
Yes.
vehicle allowed him to do that. And it was, and that was a conversation that really changed my perspective of, these types of models of like, damn, cause
Right. And I don't know, like Epic's new model. I don't know how their works. I'm not sure how the stock works with like LPT, but you've seen it with EXP and Real. Like I've got some agents that, you know, nothing extraordinarily different about them except for they just go out and do their job and they've opted into the stock purchase program. And I had one agent the other day, she's been with the company for 2 years, and she's like, my stock portfolio's worth $86,000 now. And all she did was actually do what she's doing. And then between what she's been bonused and award, plus as she would purchase, you could purchase 5% before your cap and 10% after. She got those bonuses, plus with the upside because it's value, it's $86,000 in value. I never had that when I started at Century 21, right? Like 2 years in at Century 21, what I had was still paying a 20% split and no cap, and then a 7% royalty on top of that. And people making fun of me for freaking making so many phone calls, right? Like it's just completely changed, and people can have a different experience and get paid more for doing the same exact work they've always done.
Yep. Yep. So, okay. So for those that, or whether Real or one of the, EXP or one of these other ones, that do want to take advantage. Because for me, and I get why people wouldn't want to recruit, but I'm like, why wouldn't you take advantage of the rev share?
Yeah.
That's just how my mind works. I'm like, why wouldn't you, dude? Right.
Yeah.
So, but then from there, because this is also, for, our team leaders or broker owners that, aren't with a company like that. I mean, it still comes down to agent recruiting and building that pipeline. So, but for those that are wanting to really scale that down line, dude, like what are some recommendations? Like what have you done? How have you structured it to really,
Yeah.
because you've done this fast, dude.
Yeah, I feel very blessed. The first step is to get extremely clear on who the right fit agent is that you want to attract into your world. Now, I've specifically not targeted newer agents, not because I can't help them, but honestly, it's just I'm not the right fit for them. I'm not as patient. I don't want to do as much of teaching them the skill set to prospect like I once did. And so what I've found is where I get most excited is actually teaching people how to build the right fit client out and how to hire and how to master that P&L statement. And a new agent really doesn't need that. So the first step is, okay, get clear on your right fit. And I think there's two parts. There's demographic and psychographic, and really dive in deep onto that. But then the second is, okay, there's a part two to that is I got to understand the market research. And I gotta have conversations with people. I gotta collect data on what do they need, what do they want, what do they hate about business right now, what do they love about business right now, what catches their attention on social media, where are they stuck. In fact, the number one thing that I've been hearing a lot is that the thing that they hate the most is working with other douchebag agents. And it was just like that's a common thread that I'm hearing. And so as you gather the data, also it's changed. Like 36 months ago, I was getting a lot more research where people say, where do I invest my cash? Because they had more cash. Now I'm getting a lot more, well, how do I have more consistent cash flow? So then what happens is you find out the information and what your right fit client wants, and then you put it into your marketing campaign. You create a marketing campaign. And I believe that there's four components of marketing. Number one is sphere of influence, really creating that database of agents that know you and like you, and treat it just like you would buyers and sellers. Host appreciation events, send out the email campaigns, stay in touch with them, do things like that. The second, though, is consistent content. And the content has to be created towards that right fit, number one. But number two, it's kind of a formula. And I call it hook, story, call to action. I learned that working with Dean Graciosi. And the call to action, where I messed up for a long time, is I was like calling to action in 20 different places. Everything funnels into one call to action now. And so then that call to action starts to lead to your sales system. But then the third part of marketing is paid ads. Because once you've really dialed in your message, then you can just turn on or up or down the volume by paying to be in front of those people. And all you're doing, I personally don't do any direct sell through these ads. I'm all here value add in exchange for name, a number, and an email. And they build up into what I call my incubator. And then my incubator is all about redirecting that audience similar formula, hook, story, call to action. Some of the ways that we're redirecting is we're emailing them to watch, an Instagram reel or to vote on something, send me a DM, but everything leads to where eventually it's like, send me a DM. And that's where our goes into. But we also do, when we follow up through phone call, we're following up through a text message, and then we're transitioning them to the sales funnel. So part 3 is the sales system. And there's really two components to that. One is the offer. Like, what am I going to offer them? And how clear is it? I got to be clear on it. But then the second part of that is understanding what is a sales system. And it's always 4 parts in this space. It's contact, have a meaningful conversation of discovery and qualification, set an appointment. And this is where we're doing a lot of 15-minute conversations with people on Zoom, just learning about them, what's going on in their world, and can we even serve them? And then 4th is the presentation, where you get to do a consultation, break down their gaps, and then you make them the offer that makes sense for them. Is it to partner with you at your company like Real or EXP or LPT or whatever? Is it offer your coaching program, whatever it is? Part 4, component 4 is fulfillment. And fulfillment's got to be a one-to-many experience. Otherwise, it doesn't have to be. Listen, if you want the most freedom and leverage, it's got to be one-to-many. Or if you're doing one-to-one, it's got to be really high ticket. It's got to be worth your time. Not just high ticket, it's got to be something you'll enjoy doing as well. So it's really understanding that the path that I've chosen to do is a done with you formula, one-to-many. I don't do much one-to-one anymore. I don't do any done for you, right? It's all done with you. And then the 5th is about scaling and leveraging those systems so that it can amplify to like I like to now get to 8 figures. I'm not there yet, but get to that multiple 7 figures, multiple 7-figure residual revenue stream and grow the brand.
Yeah. I love it, dude. And so like, I have coaching clients that are, with these types of firms that are like, hey man, how do I go out there and leverage this and build this up? But maybe they don't have their +1. They don't want to go out there and build a coaching thing. And, because I always look at this, okay, if I were to join one of these companies, dude, it'd just be like, yeah, I still have my paid coaching, but if you come directly my downline, you get this for free and get to be mentored by me for free, whatever. But then like I'll tell them, I mean, because of how the downline is structured, I'm like, go find somebody that has the +1, and then being in their direct downline that can leverage those. Like, you don't have to be the creator of all of this stuff, right? Because I'm assuming if somebody comes directly under you, they bring somebody in that's still within your downline, they get access into all your resources. They don't even have to necessarily worry about the fulfillment piece.
Yes and no. So the answer is yes, but here's what we've done differently at Real than EXP. And I think this is why EXP's kind of plateaued with their growth recently, besides the economy shifting. That's a whole other thing, right? Is what grew their brand was that exact format, where then it became a silo. So then the people coming in is shopping maybe Dan Beer versus someone else, right? Whatever. And then so they're comparing, well, if I join this, I get way more than if I joined that part of the downline. So then it became a competitive, an unfair advantage within inside of the company in an essence. So at Real, it's a little bit different to where and I'm actually grateful that it turned out this way, but if you join my network, I can't give you all of my coaching for free, but if you don't join it, you have to pay for it. Like, if you join my network or you're not my network, my coaching is the same price. So what it is, it's like, well, can we create a collaborative space that where no matter you move into the organization, they're going to absolutely get a high level of fulfillment, which we've done as Real Academy. Now, if people want to go deeper with you, then they can pay for your coaching products. The other thing, though, that we've done a little bit differently, which I was surprised that it worked out doing this model. And the reason it worked out for me at first is I really didn't want to give my stuff away for free, because I see that's what has worked really well for EXP. But the other thing that has been very, very interesting is the co-sponsorship element. I remember we were in, I can't remember if we were in North Carolina or Atlanta. So I've been one of the growth ambassadors. So I meet with the executive team consistently, and they would take our feedback on build on this. And we thought it would be like, what if we could avoid what EXPs ran into, where it's like this person versus that person as a sponsor, and that they could actually choose 2 people and that the revenue share was split.
Oh, yeah.
And that's been changing the element in so many ways, because for me, people see how strong I am in figuring this out. So they'll come to me like, hey, can you help me with this? They're out of my network. And then I can help close a 50, 100-person brokerage. And then we split that and it comes over. But it also works an advantage to that agent that doesn't know what they're doing, because now they actually are having some success at bringing people into their network that they wouldn't have otherwise, because they didn't want to go to such and such because then they would lose it. And what is created is, what drove America was a middle class, right? If you think what worked from World War II on was a middle class. If you look at EXP model, where I think they're challenged right now, it's they've got the elitist making so much money, and then they've got some other people making some money, and then a lot of people not making any money in the revenue share. And our view is at Reals, well, can we create almost a middle class where a middle class of people are making revenue share? And if it does, that creates a much more solid foundation to make everyone money. And so it's really been more of a collaborative network. Everyone drives towards that versus the competitive, you get this with me, vice versa. And there's the other element that still works well in my favor is I do add a significant ton of value. So my brand is well known. People naturally, that's just the natural kind of order of things, is like they want proximity to what they're attracted to vibrationally. And so I don't know if I did a good job explaining that. I think that's the major element that's different. That's why it's growing 1,000 agents a month right now. That is insane in this marketplace. And I think it's because people want that. They want the community. They want to feel a part of something.
Yep. Yep. Love it, dude. Okay. So a couple last questions for you. I know we're going extremely long on time here.
Okay.
So earlier you had said, okay, when I asked about, okay, like what are the things that agents need to be prepared for going into, this market changes, because we got multiple things here going on, but you mentioned authority, and not just being the expert, but being the authority. Can you just go a little bit deeper into what that specifically means? How do you become the authority? The way that I look at that is, okay, like just skill set acquisition, like become so damn good people can't ignore you.
Well, I think a large part of it that's allowed me to become a figure of authority in my own way over time is I've obsessed, even to this day. Like I have these two, I have a stack. I mean, obviously, oh shoot, I got the whole thing behind me. Like these are two books I'm like restudying right now, both Influence and
Robert
Persuasion.
Cialdini, dude, love him.
And so, and I've obsessed over this my entire career, getting great at communication and influencing and persuading. And I think that has to be the thing. Can you get really great at communicating effectively so that people it just land? Like, I mean, guys, I've spent a lot of money the last few years since 2020 working with Tony Robbins, and it's been awesome for me. But now Tony comes into one of our meetings, like we were in Mexico a couple of years ago, and he says one specific thing. I don't question Tony that much because he comes to me as a figure of authority, and I'm bought in on it. And that's how we have to become to the marketplace, where we're not questioned. And the way you get questioned is your tonality. The way you get questioned is the way you phrase words. And so if it comes across as a weak vibration, chaotic, like people are going to stay away from you. They're going to move away. But if you can come across sharp and clear, and as someone that's like, there's the fucking island, I'm taking it regardless who's with me, people will be like, yeah, I trust this person. I'm going to listen to this person. It's a smart person. And that only comes from daily, not once a week, not once a month, daily sitting down and taking a look at my behaviors of communication and improving a little bit every single day.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you look at sales, it's just a transference of conviction, right? And so you're just, but I think you said this earlier of, whoever's most certain wins.
Yeah. Well, and that's why there's so much challenge right now, is there's a lot of uncertainty. And, that's what I even think too, where I look at realtors being challenged, they're being challenged. I see it a lot in people's relationships right now, because all of a sudden they're not as certain in their business as they were. And they're coming home feeling that uncertainty. And then that vibration is being hit like this. And so it causes a sense of conflict. Now, conflict is natural. The question is can I effectively move through it? Can I effectively get heart-centered again so that I can soften it with my spouse or my partner? And unfortunately, because so many people it becomes a capacity issue, right? So here's why I think realtors will still continue. They're not going away, is because if I've got 3 young kids and it's already difficult in the economy or in life or running, just being a human being, do I really have the capacity to go take on a multiple 6-figure negotiation, the marketing, all the extra stress that comes with it? And the answer is most people don't, nor do they want to. They don't even want to add more shit to their plate. And so if you can first of all learn how to handle the stuff on your plate really calmly and then help take stuff off of other people's plate, it gives them a sense of relief, but that requires being good at communicating with them.
Yep. Yep. Dude, this has been fucking epic, man. I could sit here and talk with you for 6 hours. We can make this into a
It's fun, man.
6-hour podcast, man. All right, dude. So before we jam, man, look, I mean, you've got a lot of different opportunities, right? I mean, you got your coaching company, you got with Real, everything going on there, dude. If anybody that's watching or listening, man, like, where's the best place to follow you? You put out so much amazing content. Where's the best place to get in touch with you or your team to have a further conversation of seeing what coaching or
The
being
best
part with you at Real looks like?
the best place is Instagram. THEWGR is my handle, the WGR. I've got a free training on there. It's how I've named it is how I make 6 figures a month, whether I work or not. You go watch that. It trains you it gives you an overview of what I do. I also have a free real estate coaching program, and it's in depth, right? So it's an entire training system and weekly group sales and communication calls. So you can get that. Just go to my Instagram and send me a DM and we'll connect you with whatever we can do to support you. And maybe it's just like send you in another direction where maybe someone else can help you better, but we're here to serve and to help for sure.
So more people listen to this podcast and watch. So can you repeat your Instagram handle just in case they're driving again?
Yeah. So Instagram, the WGR, THEWGR. Just search that. Send me a DM and a follow, and we'll get you connected with. If you want to talk with my team, we can. If you just want some of our free content and training, let me know. And we'll send them over to you.
All right, awesome stuff. All right, Colton, man, truly appreciate you being here, dude. This has been a blast and an honor as always, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
100%. Those watching and listening, we always truly appreciate you guys being here. All your support. Keep crushing it. Keep kicking ass. And we will see you next time. Peace.
Awesome, my man.
All right, hold on one sec.